Welcome to the Truth for Your 20s podcast. My name is Katie. I'm a proud girl mom. I've been married 20 years and counting. I'm a keynote speaker to sororities nationwide and a passion to be who I needed when I was younger.
And I'm Shayna Webb, proud big sister of 5 girls, Chattanooga content creator, high school coach, and your resident 20-something co-host who definitely doesn't have it all figured out yet, but loves talking about it anyway.
And together, we are here to bring a little truth, encouragement, real stories, and laughter to your 20s.
Woo!
You know that feeling when you hit the end of the year and you're suddenly like, wait, did I learn a lot or a little? What's going on? Let me look at my calendar. And that is what we're going to do today.
Literally a lot, everything. It feels like 2025 just handed me a whole syllabus of lessons that I did not sign up for. But looking back, I'm so grateful for every single one. Like this year just felt so much. So many lessons, so many truths, a lot of overwhelm, but it's been crazy. So I'm excited to just dive in. And for new listeners, just thank you for listening and get ready to just I guess get a peek into what life is like as some girl in her mid-20s who has no idea what she's doing, but just trying to trust God with it all, because that has been just the biggest lesson of the year.
Yes. And you had a very, very big year. So I want to get into it and hear all of your things. But first, I think that a life lesson, if you will, and something that we did to kind of talk about this episode is a calendar audit. I learned this from a friend, and it's just a look back on your previous year. You know, what did you forget about? What's exciting? What are some highs? What are some lows? And by audit, what could you put more of or less of that brings you joy? You know, look back, there are some things, let's be honest, it's just you have to get your oil change and your, unfun stuff of life. And that's kind of the way it is. But there are some things that wait, why am I part of this group that I don't love or whatever it is? There are some things that you can audit in a good way. But looking back on your calendar, Shayna, you had about 3 years worth of content. So we're just going to kind of dive in and share all the things and the highs and lows. And fun fact, we do at dinner, neat, delete, and parakeet. You've heard of high-low buffalo?
Yeah.
The same idea, like neat, delete, parakeet. So a good, a bad, and something random. But you're looking back is all of those things.
Yeah,
So,
just an insane year. Just so everybody knows what my 2025 kind of looked like. I mean, it just felt like so much. It was my first fully freelance year, scaling this new content creation platform and then burning out and working so many weddings. I coached a great lacrosse season. My best friend and sister got married. We went on a family cruise. I did this whole Dare to Dance fundraiser where I raised $35,000 for the Kidney Foundation and was rehearsing doing dance practice every single week for 5 months. I held my first girls event fundraiser, my first in-person event after trying to do this content creation influencer life, which has been crazy. I met a new friend every single Friday, almost every other single Friday. Community was definitely my word of the year. And then I did this awesome phone-free retreat at the end of the year, learning just so much. The biggest lesson I feel like I learned was just God is my CEO and he's given me all these opportunities. So when I'm feeling all this stress and overwhelm, it's him. And then just also saying yes to doing this podcast. I mean, it's been a huge year. You look back and you're like, oh, 2018 was the year I graduated college. I don't remember much else, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to be 2025 was the year I did 8,000 things, which I'm very, very thankful for. I was putting it all in. ChatGPT is one of my best friends, by the way, just to brain dump a bunch of things and then just have ChatGPT help me get in order. And I was brain dumping everything that I did this year and pasting in journal entries and all of this stuff just to help me get organized. And ChatGPT said, girl, you lived 3 years in 1 year this year. That should have been spread out over 3 years. And I was like, okay, well, I just did it all in 1 year. So it's just been really fun. Yeah. I mean, it took over my life in the best and the worst ways, I would say. Just thinking back, the biggest thing, just having my web chats account this year. I mean, I worked with over 90 local businesses on an official partnership capacity, which was just so much. I said yes to way too many things. And I posted over 300 videos on web chats this year, which is just crazy. I worked weddings every month. Anyway, it was a full-time job. I mean, it was my full-time job for the first year ever. It was just my first year being freelance. So it was crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's true that having an incredible year and having a burnout can coexist. And saying yes while you're starting to, because I mean, I think that obviously you need to grow your business and all that stuff is normal and it growing faster than you expected. All of these things are normal, but also can lead to burnout and stuff like that. So I guess, I think that's so real as people in their 20s listening, like, okay, wait,
Mhm.
I'm a similar position. I'm growing and I'm trying to say yes, but then I'm also like crying in the bathtub at night. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like, you can live you can be living, like, your dream and everything that you've prayed for and also still feel burnt out because of, like, boundaries that you just didn't know you needed to set, and yeah.
Yeah. So what are you learning? Cause you're like in real time. Cause I know,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is real time. I have not gotten out of this yet, so but again, like, that's what we said when we were doing this podcast is we just want it to be like, "You're in this with us." Like, we don't have it all figured out. I definitely don't have it all figured out, but, like, just talking through it because,
Yeah.
your 20s you can feel so alone. So one of the biggest things I kind of walk through was feeling super alone in my business because I was trying to do this new thing where I was chasing, having my own business, which by business, I'm talking about like content creation. And that was Web Chats, which is my Chattanooga Vlogs account, but also like doing social media management, working weddings and editing wedding videos. And especially at the beginning of the year, I was doing a ton of social media management and I had to take a step back from that just because I realized it was just so much. And through all that, I just felt alone because I didn't have an assistant and I just was doing it all by myself because I was not making enough money necessarily to have an assistant because I was charging not a
Nichols.
lot. And then, like, you don't want to charge too much because you're like, well, I'm trying to highlight genuinely just like local businesses, but also it's like a lot of work and you're doing like a full on commercial for these businesses. Anyway, so I was feeling super alone. And just like one of the biggest lessons I learned is like God is the one who gave me all of these opportunities in the first place. And he just reminded me, it was when I took that free retreat that like he is my CEO. So I'm not alone and I'm not even the boss. He is the boss and he's given all of this to me. So why don't I just come into like clock into work every day and be like, okay, God, like I am volunteering my day to you. What would you like me to do with my day? And it just helps me like realize I'm not alone and I'm not working for myself. Like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna let him lead because anytime you try to plan your own life, he's gonna be like, "You can't. Don't think that you can."
No, that's so real. I've heard it said when it comes to money management, and this relates, but if you were if you had an audit and, because
Mhm.
God is your CEO is a good example, but if you were your own CFO, would you hire you? And
Yeah,
so that's so true, especially so many people are working for themselves or working from home and have loose schedules and that's all great and beautiful. I'm the same way. Like I work from home and I love that. But sometimes you need the accountability or the thought of if I were to hire me as my CEO, would or have a performance review, we should say, would I keep me on the payroll? So it's just things to think about and to how not to like be critical, but just this is such a good time this end of the year to reflect back and to look
yeah,
back like where did I struggle? Great. And how can I do more of the good things and how can we fix some of the things where we struggled? So
right. And, like, a conversation I just had last week, like, again, we're doing this podcast, I'm just in this, like, currently, so I hope that it will be cool to listen back and hopefully see where I've grown, but, like, I am on the outside, if you look at my social media or whatever, it looks like I am just like living the dream. I get to go out to eat for free and make videos about all these awesome places. And truly, 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 I am so, so, so thankful for this opportunity that has now become my job because I used to be at in 2024, I was working 9 to 5 nonprofit job and just doing all of Whip Chats on the side for fun. And then in October of 2024, when I took the leap and became full-time freelance and just doing all of this, like it was a learning curve, like trying to learn how I'm exactly making money. So initially it was like I took on a ton of weddings and social media management clients to like make money because I didn't necessarily want to charge local businesses a ton of money for me to post them on web chats or whatever. But then you also just have to learn like places were telling me you're charging like way too little. Like we pay way more than this for like magazine ads and radio ads and billboards and it doesn't get half the reach, a quarter of the reach that you're getting us or whatever. So start charging more. So some people are telling me to charge more and some people are then like literally like posting about me on Reddit and saying I'm sold out and like don't trust my recommendations because I'm just getting paid to post them. Like it's like so many people are telling you different things. And so it's like it's just hard, like, figuring out what your boundaries are and what you wanna do and everything, and so, yeah, I mean, it's hard to just I guess that's everyone who starts their own business is, like, trying to figure out what exactly to do, but with all of that, it's like you have crash outs or like burnouts and like quarter life crises where you're like, maybe I'm just going to not do any of this anymore. And I'm just going to go back and work a 9 to 5 because it's so much like all these people telling you what to do and everything. So even last week, I was like, maybe I'll start looking for a 9 to 5 job again and just do this as a side passion. But then you also have to be like, well, I really like see so many great opportunities, but you don't see any of that on social media. You just see like, yeah, here's this new restaurant. Check out this awesome like steak, which again, just so thankful. And I can't say I'm thankful enough because like it is truly just a dream. And I'm very, very thankful. But yeah, it doesn't, that's why I'm so glad for this podcast. We can
Yeah.
dive in deeper on like all of these things that you go through. So
Yes, I'm thankful for this podcast too. And diving into all the conversations, I would say just feedback from all of that. Reddit schmeddit.
yeah.
The wild, wild west of the internet.
Right. I mean, obviously, when you do anything on social media, as you know, like there's always going to be haters and the haters are always going to speak louder. Like you could have 99 people
Yeah.
telling you this is the best thing ever and one person saying you suck and you're only going to think about that one person. So it's just another reminder like anything you say online, like it's real people behind the screens. So,
Yes.
but it has been just a learning curve, like not letting the haters or anybody, like what anybody thinks about you. Obviously, only what matters is what God thinks about you and everything. So, and people are always going to be louder when they're disappointed. And most of the time, you don't leave a good review after you go eat at a restaurant. You only leave a bad review when you have a bad experience. You don't necessarily leave a good review after you had a good experience. So it's like the loudness of the bad is
Yeah.
always so loud. But
It's so true. Do you follow Jen Hamilton? She just recently, it said like her year in review, and her number one fan, it said in your fan, was a hater. It was just someone who commented all
yeah,
the time about how terrible she was and stuff, which of course leads me to the Taylor Swift song, Actually Romantic, of how
yeah,
romantic it is. People spend the time to hate on you. So yeah,
yeah.
consider that good things.
Exactly. And just like, again, I remember I was just re-listening to our first episode podcast and like what I would have told my 18-year-old self is like, don't worry so much about what other people think. And obviously that goes so into your 20s too. And like, you have to go where you feel led and what feels good for you in the moment because it can always change. Like you
Yeah.
can change it later. Your 20s don't have to be perfect where you figure everything out. So just keep experimenting and seeing what works. And that's how I have found success with content creation is just by experimenting and pivoting and, like seeing what your audience wants and what works. And that's what we are going to do with this podcast, like going off of what you guys want and everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
so
But
many lessons that are just like right there.
I know. And so again, just going back and encouraging you to like edit your calendar, looking back, which is essentially what we did and how you had like such a crazy year and, just reflecting and life lessons and all that kind of stuff. So, and another huge thing that I think that is worth noting that you had this year is your new friend Friday and community and that pop-up, like you mentioned. You probably want to explain that a little better because people may not know what that pop-up thing is, but you created community on purpose. And I think it's worth talking about.
Yes, my word of the year was community. And there's just something powerful about creating the thing that you once needed. Again, like I didn't have an older sister. And so just like this podcast in general, like hearing your old episodes and just having a space where you can hear someone talk about these things that not everyone talks about. But going into like community for this year, I hosted my first in-person event. So it was part of my fundraiser for the Dare to Dance thing I did where I was raising money for the Kidney Foundation. And I really wanted to have an in-person event where girls could make new friends because I had been doing that one-on-one, throughout the year with my new friend Friday, where I'd meet up with a new girlfriend every Friday. And it was just great to have one-on-one time. But obviously you want to do that on like a little bit larger scale because a lot of people want to get in on it. So I hosted Pop-Up at the Park, which was just a bunch of pop-up activities. We made flower bouquets, we made charm necklaces, we had Pure Barre come and do 2 pop-up workout classes. We had a pop-up Pilates class, and then we had like puppies upstairs, and we had little shops upstairs, and we had pizza, and we had food. It was so much fun. I got to work with a bunch of local businesses on that. But like I learned so much through it. First off, I put tickets on sale 1 week before the event, and it sold out in 24 hours.
Oh my God.
Which was so cool. Like just a testament to like how much people want community and how cool it was, like how God used this platform to like be something bigger than just like me sharing little Chattanooga recommendations. So it was so cool to get to do that. And over 50 girls showed up to make friends. And we played this game where I like basically it was like 4 corners. And I'd be like, go to this corner if Like, I would read 4 different options for, like, how you wanna spend your Saturday or your ideal, day off, or, like, which of these do you like best, just so people could meet people with similar interests, and that was just such a full circle in God moment. I absolutely love that. And yeah, so I learned also that community doesn't just happen. You can build it through invitations or awkward first conversations and then just become better friends with people and just really showing up even when you're tired. Like, I think there's still like things to be learned about like showing up for community, because you don't get a village just by expecting one. Like, you have to get your own village by being a part of other people's villages. So,
And that you did the brave thing of having the event and stuff. I think that it probably, what if no one comes and what if I can't,
yeah.
all of that, but you pushed through and did it. So I think it's so exciting.
Yeah, which kind of leads into like the next lesson I really feel like I learned this year, which was stepping out of your comfort zone and how that changes you. Because again, with the event, that was something new. But like, I feel like I have to talk about Dare to Dance. It was such a huge part of my 2025 because basically what it was is Dancing with the Stars on a local level. So I was really channeling my own Alex Earl, which was crazy. But it was literally rehearsing once a week for like 5 months on top of fundraising, which was so much fun. I'm just so thankful, like, that I could even be a part of it. Because when they first asked me to do this, I was like, "Absolutely not." I never danced before. Like, I did some theater growing up, but besides that, no. So dancing freaked me out, but also the fundraising part, huge freak out. I told them right away, there's no way I'll be able to raise more than 10,000. Like 10,000 will even be a stretch. But I reached out to a bunch of businesses I had worked with before. And again, overcommitted myself by doing like stuff for free in exchange for them sponsoring me and everything. So I guess it wasn't for free. They were sponsoring me, which all the money went to local kidney patients, which was so awesome. And I just never ever imagined, like, we did the dance back in October, October 25th. And then we won top performer, which was crazy. Like, never, ever once in the whole 5 months did I ever, ever expect that. I never, like, I was not a dancer, you guys. And like, there were other people who were dancers. I think it was all just because of my facial expressions. That's what the judges liked. We did The Little Mermaid. It was so much fun. And even my dance partner, he said after our dance, he was like, "I was not expecting that." Like, I was like, "Joel, you could have believed in us a little bit." And he was awesome. My dance partner was super awesome too. And just, I guess, a huge lesson from that is like stepping out of your comfort zone can be so much fun. You just have to do it, even when it's really scary. And like, God can meet you in so many moments. There are just so many moments throughout the Dare to Dance journey where I saw like God working through conversations I wouldn't have had if I hadn't have said yes to this, and just getting to see the benefits of giving back to your community. Because there was a time where I was like, I'm doing a lot of free work for me. Like, I'm not getting paid. I'm getting fundraising dollars for the local kidney patients, but just seeing how God can use that and like how much it helps our community was so cool.
Yeah. No, that's so exciting. Definitely. Can you tell she had a big year? This is, and just, I should have said this at the beginning, but obviously this episode's a little different, just kind of highlighting, hearing a lot from Shayna because it was such a monumental year and unpacking all the many lessons that she learned from it. So that's kind of why we're doing it this way, but it's so good.
Yes. And also just getting into what you learned this year,
Yeah.
Katie, would be so fun. But again, just like as we wrap up, kind of what I learned this year is there's so many beautiful moments that can coexist with exhaustion and stuff, but you do have to learn boundaries. And yeah, I'm in the middle of that. So I guess tune in next year to see if I figure out the boundaries.
You're doing good though. I
But you
think you're
can,
doing great.
yeah, and you can be proud of yourself and still like need to slow down, and you can love life and still need rest and things like that. So,
Yes. Sorry. I'm just like, when you said that, it spoke to my soul. It's so true.
yeah, I mean, and just like letting go of like who you think you're supposed to be and let God mold you into what he wants. And he's obviously not done. And I'm very just thankful for that. So, yeah.
I think I shared this on a previous episode, but I had a come to Jesus moment, if you will, one
Yeah.
time around this time, New Year's. My husband and I were kind of doing similar conversation here, like auditing and looking back and what we value and what we don't value. Anyways, I said, yeah, one of the things I really value is working with college students. And at the time, he was like, I wasn't doing any of that. There wasn't anything on my calendar in my real life. I wasn't doing any small groups or a podcast or anything like that. And he's like, kind of just kindly, but what are you talking about? And that's when I was like, oh shoot, my calendar has to match up with what I say matters to me. The example I always use is people say like, oh, I want to run a marathon. cool. Can you do a 5K? Do you
Yeah.
have shoes? Do you want to go out the door and go for a jog? So we have to make action steps.
Yeah.
Action steps eat good intentions for breakfast.
Right.
So taking those action steps. And I think that you having such a huge year, you obviously taken a lot of action steps. And that's really important too, because you doing all of this stuff, you can also look back at like what was awesome, what was maybe awesome but overwhelming and I don't want to do again. All of those things. It's such a good way to look back and this I want to do again, I don't want to do again, all of
Right.
that. It's so
Right, because definitely and I'm so glad that, like, I didn't super overthink the money piece because if you're looking at 2025, it is not the most money that I made more money when I was working a 9 to 5, obviously, because you're getting paid consistently and everything. So just, like, I'm just glad that I didn't let that hold me up, though, because I think there's just so many cool opportunities, and obviously money isn't everything. Like, these experiences are worth so much. But I guess the thing I would wanna leave listeners with or anybody in their 20s is, like, if your 2025 felt messy or, like, overwhelming or, like, it was stretching you or just beautiful, like, you're not alone. I am right there with you growing, and it just feels good sometimes to hear other people going through, like, the "I don't know what I'm doing," because that's just what your 20s are, and yeah, so nobody's doing it wrong. If your year looked nothing like mine, you're not doing it wrong either. There's just so many people in different life stages in their 20s and just so much always happening. So I guess I would just say, like, make sure you're resting and make sure you have like a community around you. And if you don't yet, there are so many ways you can go out and find one. And
yeah,
I'm just like, community is just the biggest thing that I think is like why we're living. So,
preach. I have a question that made me think about because this year was such a year of growth and things you can see, if you will. Okay, I'm a plant nerd and this relates, I promise. So the first few years of a lot of plants' growth is underground. You can't see it. It's the roots getting established. And then it seems like all of a sudden, boom, things you can see. And so I'm curious, and I'm putting you on the spot here, but like, do you know, like years past, maybe even just a year before, like the roots that were grown to see so much growth this year?
oh, yeah. I mean, I just think back to, like, when I was posting with, like, 0 followers, like, I mean, and or, like, 100 or, like, 200 followers, and obviously, like, I always say, like, 100 views is still 100 people, like,
Yeah.
think about how nervous you would be to speak like, when I did Dare to Dance, there were 850 people in the convention center watching me dance, and I just had to keep telling myself, 850 people is, like, 850 views, and that's, like 850 views is, like, whatever, like, there's always so much worth in whatever you're doing, no matter what the numbers look like, and you shouldn't get caught up in numbers or anything. But I mean, there's so much just like I was posting Chattanooga videos for months before I even like web chats really kicked off or started off. Like I was doing it on my personal page and just like doing it. And I remember, someone messaging me like, this is so cringe. Like there's so many times where it's just like you have to ignore the haters, like I guess. But a lot of just work and before I had web chats, I posted every single day in 2022 and 2023 on TikTok. So it's just like learning by doing. And so there's a lot of stuff where you're just learning and you may not know why you're going through this. Again, also when sad things happen, like a tragedy in life happens. Or I remember even just like in high school, not making the lacrosse team one year, but it taught me so much. So there's a lot of times in so many different situations, not just social media, not just sports or friendships. Like, why did I go through this friend fight or disagreement? And then you see years later, like you're helping some girl in the same situation. Yeah.
It just came to me when you were talking about that because I know it was such a year of growth, but I know that obviously the roots first got established, so that's really cool.
Yes. Yes. Okay, Katie, let's talk about what you learned because I have just been yapping away.
No, I loved it. And mine will be shorter. I just want to share a few things. Well, the main thing so we got an ornament this year to kind of signify our year, and that was a passport. And that was mostly significant that we had an exchange student live with us last year. And I shared a little bit in older episodes, but if you're new here, we had an exchange student from Germany live with us all last year. She was 17. Wonderful, wonderful experience. Great young lady. And it was so good for our family in so many different ways. Our oldest daughter ended up going to stay with her family last summer. So that was a really cool experience for her. Also just, learning about, it was an election year. It was 2024. So she was with us and having from someone from a different country, that was obviously very eye-opening as far as that goes. And just so many things about that experience was really cool. And then just looking back at our calendar, we did a lot of traveling. just through our family, through speaking, we wanted to take our exchange student to New York City because she's never been to New York City. And so that was really amazing. But all of that, when you just leaving, even if you're going to a local getaway, like leaving your own bed and staying somewhere different, yeah, it's just a learning experience,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
getting, especially, of course, new languages and new cultures and all of that. It's been a year of growth as it relates to traveling and getting out of your comfort zone. And that's definitely my takeaway for this past year and looking back and what I would love to do more of, but also probably not travel quite as much next year.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wanna take and I know in the last episode, we talked about our goals for 2026, and I definitely know that rest will be I really wanna prioritize it more, and for those who did listen to last week's episode about 2026 goals, I have been still doing the Sunday thing with no phones and no
Great.
screen time. Or less than an hour of screen time, which has been great, and just, like, I realized how much you need those days to fill your cup back up, because you will get all the way drained out, and you will get all the way burnt out, and then you will crash out, and then you have to start over because you are like, "I wanna completely redo my life," and I'm all for a New Year reset and, like, resetting some things, but there are some times where you need to just keep the image that a lot of times people will post places, and it's like the guy with the pitchfork thing, and he's, like, mining, and there's all of these diamonds, like, right
Mm.
before he stops, and he finally stops because 'cause he's been doing it forever, and it's like, if he would've just hit it one more time, the diamonds would've came through. It's almost like that, like, sometimes you just have to push through. Obviously, sometimes you have to just keep going even when you're tired, but there's also times where you could just take a little break and then keep going and find the diamonds, so I don't know if that made any sense, but
It did, and it just made me think of how, you just did a post on this for our page, which you should definitely follow. It's called Truth for Your 20s on Instagram.
yeah.
Anyways, talking about how these things can coexist and be different for different people. And what I mean is like when you're young, travel, see the world, your 20s, like we just talked about, like traveling is important. Yes. And also being close to family and, having deep roots in your community where you grew up, like they're both beautiful. And one is not better, they're just different, and maybe they're both true for you. Maybe you travel and come back home. Maybe you travel and never come back home. Maybe you never travel and stay home close to your community. None of those are right or wrong, they're just different. And they're all valuable in your especially in this decade as you're figuring it all out, and so just, as I was talking about traveling, it's great, and it's wonderful, and we had a wonderful year, and next year I want to sleep in my own bed more.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah,
And just something about your 20s is like everyone's in a different position.
yeah,
So, like, your friend might be studying abroad in England, and that is so awesome. And you're just back here working your corporate job 9 to 5 behind a desk every day, and you're like comparing. And it's just everyone is different and
yeah,
on their own journey because in your 20s, everyone is going through every single thing all at once. And you're like, please slow down. But
yeah.
just be where your feet are is just a huge thing, is like,
It really is, and we glorify the studying abroad in London, and it's great, it's amazing, but no one talks about yeah, but, you stay in your local community, the best doctor, you get to know deep roots with, your cousins and the people, and having deep roots in the community is not to be dismissed because as someone who's moved a little bit, like, I miss that from having, that so and so's brother or whatever, like, that's a beautiful thing too, so just have to shout out the girl who didn't study abroad, you're still pretty dope.
yes, exactly.
Okay, we covered a lot of ground. I just wanted to go back and you definitely need to share about that incredible year. I learned a few things too, so it's so good. I just encourage you if you learn nothing else about this episode, do a calendar audit, look back at what worked and what didn't for you, and then take those lessons into your new year.
Yes, and we would love to hear something that you learned this year. If you want to leave a comment or if you want to send us a DM on at Truth for Your 20s, and that's 20S for the 20s part.
Yeah.
We would love to hear about it and just be in this with you because again, your 20s can feel alone. And of course, as we said, like God is there with you, but sometimes it helps to just hear, another online message, and we would love to encourage you in that way. So if you want to send us a comment or a message, we will totally, chat with you back. So
Yes, we love that. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you got some truth for your 20s.
bye.